Yeah, we have been registered, which tells you nothing is impossible. Most of the greatest changes that have come in the country, including in the US, where we had the push for recognition of the black minorities and allowing even women, black Americans, to vote. Slavery itself has been there in the US until the last century, when a few brave Americans came and put an end to it. And it has been a struggle up until we have the first black president in the United States of America. Change is possible. You know, to say that it is impossible means that we should not do anything. So atheists in Kenya, despite the fact that we are a minority, we are going to work within the law, work within our freedoms, our fundamental freedoms and rights, and work within the scope of the Societies Act to implement these changes. I'll give you one example. The education system is undergoing a review right now. We have a proposal that is going to be given to the Minister for Education, who is a very hardworking minister, by the way, Cabinet Secretary Matiang'i. And you know he comes from my place. This should be easy. This should be easy.
No, that is Kenya.
This should be easy. Yeah, so we are going to give our proposal to Matiang'i. We want him to look at it. Our proposal simply states, in short, that we want comparative studies for religious study in schools. In terms of, for example, the street preaching, which at one point we rose up against, so long as it disrupts the peace and order of Kenyans, then we have to rise up against it. Look, there are people who are waking up every Saturday morning to speakers in the estates of people, you know, preaching, and at night we have estates. Go to some of these estates. Somebody just comes and sets up a speaker. You have a child in the house who is supposed to be sleeping. Mtu amekuja kuweka speaker hapo saying, come to this crusade, God will save you. We should stop those kind of things.
But we have freedom of expression, freedom of worship.
Yes. However, when you say that, I would like anybody who does that to ask themselves one question. If I put up these speakers and shout my message in the morning, if a Satanist was to put up the same speakers and shout their message, would they be willing to accept that? Because if the rule cannot apply to others, then it should not apply to you either.
And speaking of Satanists, actually, we've only spoken about not believing in God, that there is no God. What's your take on devil worshipping? Do you believe in that?
It's a God.
There is no God, there is no deity, so there is no devil. I think the concept of the devil is, again, a religious construct. Because if you look at the story of creation, for example, there was God who did all the nice works of creating human beings. Then there was the devil who was already in the Garden of Eden. You start wondering, why was God creating human beings and putting a serpent in the Garden of Eden? I mean, why was that happening?
Right.
I mean, the story itself it raises a lot of contradictions. Yeah, but it's a religious construct. You know, for there to be good, the religious people claim there is a God, and that the bad things happen because of the devil. We do not believe that any of those exists. So Satanism is not, we don't believe that there's a Satan, there's a devil who does wrong things, who is responsible for the bad things that happen. Bad things happen and good things happen in this world, and that is it.
Right.
And
I'm sure bad things have happened to you.
And in most cases, human beings
And it's not
are responsible.
Satan who
So
caused
human
them.
beings are responsible in most cases.
Part of the reason why the concept of Satan is very attractive to a lot of religious people is that it absolves them from taking responsibility for their bad.
Yeah.
I can say, the devil made me do it. I'm no longer responsible for what I did as a thing. So it's really an escape route to, so you can say, I am not responsible for what I have done. Right? And to me, the concept is as invalid as the concept of God.
All right. Now, this is the first atheist association to be registered in Africa. And some of the comments that are coming in on Twitter actually asking, you know, Kenya is the first to register atheists and legally recognize them. It's quite sad for a country, because what does that say about our traditional values? But even as they say that, do you think that this now will set a trend for the rest of the continent to register or recognize atheists as a legal entity?
I think it depends on, much depends on the constitutions in these individual countries and also how accommodative their regimes are. You know, there are regimes in this continent where you cannot talk about atheism. You know, Egypt, I'm not sure Egypt and Libya and those countries in the northern part of Africa, which are very, you know, some of their constitutions are what we call, they are actually founded on the Islam faith. And you know, Islam has apostasy laws where you're not allowed to leave Islam, or you will be, you know, in some cases you can even be, you know, killed. So what we're saying is it depends a lot on the regimes and the constitution. Now, Kenya has an advantage. We have a very progressive Bill of Rights, and our registration has been made possible because of the Bill of Rights. And there are some elements who still are not swallowing that we're in a new dispensation. Can they swallow this pill? Because, you know, by the way, the registration of atheists in Kenya should really bring no surprise to anybody who understands what it means to have fundamental freedoms and rights. It's only that we're in a very religious country, and so this is looking like what are they about to do, and you know, are they going to transform the society? We are exercising our freedoms and rights, and I think being the first atheist in Kenya society, even in the continent, to be registered. To me, what it means is that Kenya is a progressive country. We are the light in the continent.
Right.
And then also, when you use that argument, are we going to say the first country to ban slavery was a disaster? When you allow the rights of somebody else and you're the first country, is that a disaster, or is it, are you actually showing the rest of the world that
it's
it
possible.
can be done?
It's possible. All right. Now, in free thought, Kenya is largely traditional as well. Many cultures believe in witchcraft, and we have stereotypes about witchcraft with different communities. What's your take on witchcraft as an atheist?
Witchcraft is the same as religion, as mainstream religion. It's just, the only reason witchcraft is considered odd is because it's actually a smaller group. The same things that a pastor will go and say, passing on healing to you, is the same thing that the witchcraft is doing with slightly different rituals. All of them rely on the gullibility of Kenyans, of their adherents, right? So whether it's a witch doctor shaking his calabash or the pastor stretching out his hands, it's exactly the same thing. It requires the person down here to believe that something is happening, and to believe against all evidence that something is happening.
All right. Now, help us understand, not being able to believe in a deity or a higher power, does it mean then that you have had a deep understanding of Christianity and Islam and all the religions that there are to arrive at that conclusion?
Well, no, that's not what it means. But of course, if I've personally not read the Hindu faith, I mean, I've not really delved much into that. There are some religions in the like Opus Dei, for example. I've not read a lot about that. In Islam, I have an understanding of it, but I've not really gone deep into that. Now, you know, you don't need to have a broad understanding of all the religions and their deep understanding, and you don't need to, for example, have been a Muslim and to have practiced Islam and read the entire Quran for you to reject the idea of the Muslim God. But for me, I think I have done a lot of evaluation. I was brought up a Christian. I went to the church when I was young. I went to Sunday school. In school, I was taught CRE. So at some point in time, the question you ask is not really whether the Hindu God exists or not. Is in fact more fundamental. Is life a function of a deity, any deity? If you look at what happens in the world, if you look at the universe, does it look more like it is as a result of any deity? And you know what most religions propose is that the deity does several things. He is the creator of the universe, and he is responsible for how we live. He gets annoyed if we do bad things, and he is happy when we do good things, and he does miracles. But if you look at, evaluate life a bit more critically, look at the happenings of the world, where there is so much war, there is so much sickness, there is so much strife. You know, you look at what is happening in Europe right now and Libya, where there's a refugee crisis there. Look at what's happening in, not Libya, sorry, that is in the Middle East, Syria. Yeah. So you look at, just walk to Kenyatta Hospital, go to the cancer ward, you know, look at the earthquakes that happen, look at the world and ask yourself, really, is there anybody in control? Would you say there is a deity in control? So I don't think you need to really have delved into all these religions. I think you just need to evaluate life as it is. A bit of science also helps, because again, a lot of research has been done, a lot of knowledge is now available in terms of how things happen, because again, religion always tries to explain that which is unknown. And for a long time they had an edge, because the knowledge which we have now, we did not have it 100 years ago.
Right.
There was nobody who had gone to the moon, so the moon was thought to be this you know, this concept that maybe, you know, has anything to do with God. The sun, nobody knew that the sun was not the one going around the earth. In fact, the very Catholics who are now talking believed at one time that the earth was flat.
Right.
Now we know that it is not flat. So with all this knowledge, you start really rooting out the concept of a deity, of a God. And it makes less sense to anybody that there is a God when you start understanding knowledge. And in the 21st century, I think we have enough knowledge to dismiss the idea of a God.
Okay. Now, as we wind up, Semakule, Kenyans will now have to contend with the fact that there is a group out there spreading the message that God does not exist.
Yep.
But for you, is it hard as an atheist to live among Kenyans who are so religious and so grounded in their religious beliefs?
There are challenges in being an atheist in Kenya. No, most of them are not quite blatant on your face. But one of the challenges you tend to find is that everybody, a lot of people, let me not say everybody, a lot of people will tend to ignore your opinion, I think, because it is not a mainstream opinion. If you walk into a meeting of 10 people and you happen to be one of them, one of the first things they will insist, you must stand up and pray. The fact that you don't believe in their particular God somehow is not considered as important.
Right.
Yet if I walked into the same meeting and said, let's read a chapter from Dawkins' God Delusion, I would be opposed for that. So one of the things you realize as an atheist is that a lot of times, because of the entrenched religious privilege, people ignore your own rights and they presume that their rights actually matter more than yours. And for some people, it's also an issue of families. A lot of atheists cannot come out as atheists, not because they wouldn't want to come out as atheists, but because they believe the family is going to disown them, is going to throw them out, is going to say, like, you can't, my child cannot be born like this. It also happens in workplaces. People sort of think every time they see an atheist, they see a Satanist, they see some kind of evil person. And yet atheists the same people as me and you. If I passed you on the street, I don't think it's written somewhere, there is an atheist.
All right.
There's a book I want to, just a minute, I have to give you this book. I just brought it because it's important. I want you to read it. This is a book called 10 Christian Myths That Show That Jesus Never Existed at All.
So these are the kind of books that you read?
Go read this book because it is an important book. Yeah, then you'll understand why, for example, the idea that Jesus existed is at a contention in the secular community.
All right. Unfortunately, time is up, but I will definitely read this book, 10 Christian Myths That Show Jesus Never Existed at All. We have been speaking to Harrison Mumia, the president of the Atheists in Kenya organization, as well as Semakula, chairman of the Free Thinkers Association and a member of the Atheists in Kenya Association as well. The association has recently been registered and is now realized as a legal entity in Kenya. Thank you so much for staying with us on the Weekend Express this morning. My name is Michelle Ngele. Do enjoy the rest of your day.